just been, as I say, consider himself very fortunate that I've been to be part of the success of our football club.
Coming up on the official Celtic FC podcast, we speak to Celtic legend Tom Boyd ahead of the Celtic FC Foundation's trek across the Sahara. And Tom reflects on his playing career and his days with Celtic.
This is the official Celtic FC podcast.
Hello and welcome to the official Celtic FC podcast. I'm your host for today's episode, Matthew Campbell. Absolutely delighted to be in the hot seat, and I'm joined today, my guest, the Celtic View's very own Ryan Maher. Ryan, I've got to say, it's very strange to be on this side hosting the pod and you being the guest today, so I'll treat you the way that you treat me. How are you? How was your weekend?
I'm very, very good. As I was saying over the weekend, when we decided that you were going to be taking the hosting seat and I was going to be in this chair, I all of a sudden got a lot more nervous for sitting in here. I feel like I need to be a lot more wise and come up with better things to say. So it's I'm feeling the pressure a little bit. It's quite a surreal experience sitting here, so pressure's on.
Maybe this says something about me, but the fact that you're saying you need to be wiser and so on, I'm going to take that as a positive, that I sort of contribute wisdom and sort of intelligence when I'm in that seat.
You know, without you, this podcast is nothing, Matt, when you're in this seat. So it's I've got a very, very high bar and a high ceiling to live up to here.
That's
so
a headline,
hopefully.
Folks. That's a headline. Well, listen, it's wonderful to be here. Wonderful to be hosting today. I'm also a wee bit nervous, a wee bit jangly here today. But I'm sure we're going to have a bit of fun because, of course, we're joined by a wonderful guest today. And for anybody who's watching the pod, you already know who it is because you can see the man sitting there. But we'll give this guy the introduction that he definitely deserves, because today we are joined by a Celtic legend, a Celtic captain, a man who won 3 league titles, 3 league cups, 2 Scottish Cups with this football club. He captained Celtic to our first league title in a decade. In the 97-98 season, of course, we won a league and league cup double that season, and this guy was the captain. He's an ex-Celtic TV commentator, some would say the voice of Celtic TV back in the day, and of course he's a Celtic ambassador. We're talking about the one and only Tom Boyd. Tom, it's wonderful to have you here with us today. How are things?
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much for that nice introduction.
That's absolutely fine.
Yes,
you owe me a tenner, but that's
looking forward to the few challenges that I've got up now coming along, but obviously had a few in my time when I played, and I'm more than that 97 league championship, which was so important for us. And obviously my first season as captain, so but yous weren't around at that time. Yous weren't born, were you? Yous were just wee pups. And
well, hopefully we'll learn a few things today and hear a few good stories. We're going to chat a little bit about Tom's career with Celtic. Ryan, we're going to look back, you know, on that wonderful season in 97-98. We'll chat a wee bit about your career with Celtic. We'll also, of course, reflect on the weekend's match against Aberdeen and look forward to the midweek game against Hibs that's coming up. But before we do that, we're going to chat a wee bit about Tom's work that he does with the Celtic FC Foundation, which is obviously such a pivotal part of the makeup of the club and how the club operates. And Tom, I know that you take your work with the foundation incredibly seriously.
Yes, I do. I've been with them for a wee while and done quite a few challenges with them, all to raise funds for the magnificent work that the foundation do. And I think as supporters, I think we've got a wee duty to follow in the footsteps of how we started our club and try to help as much as you can. And with me in the position I'm in, to be able to go out and help and do some wee challenges that they throw up with me. I'm still waiting in the beach in the Caribbean, sitting in a lilo somewhere, but they've had me up Ben Nevis 3 times. I've done the Arctic last year, and now we'll be doing the Sahara this year. In fact, next week.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It sounds really exciting. So tell us just a little bit more about this Sahara Trek that you're about to embark on, because it sounds really difficult.
It will be difficult. I loved the Arctic Trek. The challenge was brilliant. We might have been lucky. It was only minus 20 in the tent with frost inside. But the tents, I've said to everybody, the tents were great. I think they get you to minus 50. You can go into that. The weather we had, although cold, wasn't windy, which so you didn't have that real wind chill factor, and so it wasn't more severe.
What sort of distance are we talking then?
For the Sahara, it's in total it's 32 kilometres. Right? Does it seem that long for a 4-day trek? but it's what you're walking on. I've had many people, so there's a few people who are doing the trek that know someone who has either done this trek before or I think run marathons, and they've said it's the hardest thing they have ever done. Right, we will be walking, heading into Morocco to Marrakesh, and then a 4-hour journey into the desert, that one the next day, and we will be climbing sand dunes. And there is a sand dune which is 100 metres tall. Now, this is soft sand that you'll be walking on, so that will be very, very hard. It reminded me, going back to my very first pre-season with Motherwell,
Right.
and it was Jock Wallace that was at Motherwell at the time, and he had us up Gullen, running up the sand dunes at Gullen. I know we don't have to run as much as what we do, but that will be testing, very, very testing. So there's, I think, about 15, 60s, and another guy who was part of that team away back in 1997, 98 was Simon Donnelly who'll be doing it with us. So both of us together are going along, and we'll try and help and raise as much funds as we can.
That's marvellous. I mean, it's a serious undertaking as well. I was having a little look at some people's testimonials who have, went on these expeditions before, trekked across the Sahara, and it's quite obvious that it's going to be warm and it's going to be very difficult. I'm curious as to how you prepare for something like
definitely.
that. How do you train your body to do
Like
that?
sauna somewhere. You can
In terms of scales of height, I'm sure Celtic Park here is about quite about 100 metres. Maybe not as quite as that, but there's a lot of stairs that we could maybe climb or whatever. There's quite a few that are trying to climb some hills to get into that sort of way of but you can't reenact this. I think certainly here where we are, we don't have enough sand dunes. I don't think we're going to get a desert here anytime soon in the middle of Glasgow. But we don't have enough good sand dunes or sand dunes of that height that you kind of acclimatise, so to speak. So it's especially like long walks. I'll go out my bike a few times. The weather conditions are horrendous for that just now, so it's mainly walks. And try to walk up hills. I know there's quite a few other ones that are taking part in the trek will be doing that. But just trying to keep yourself ticking over as best as you can. We can't reenact, I know as you try to do, you can't reenact the sand dunes that we're going to be climbing, how soft they're going to be, and it's going to be very, very hard. So it will be a challenge, a 4-day challenge, and listen, I love it. It wasn't as hard as trying to beat Rangers for doing 10 in a row way back in 97, 98. So that was harder. That was harder.
Do you get nervous before doing these types of things?
No, nervous, no. Apart from waking up in the middle of the night and screaming, how am I going to go out? No, as I've done before, and I've done Ben Nevis about 7 or 8 times for different charities. I've done other hills, so I'm go out and do it with my daughter, so I love a wee challenge, and this will certainly be one. Never been to this part of the world before.
Tick off.
I've played against Morocco, but we'll no go any further than that. That was one of the ones in France 98 again, wasn't it?
So you're getting your revenge now in Morocco?
No, listen, we should be welcome. We lost 3-0 to Morocco, so we weren't very good in that day. But I'm really looking forward to. A lot of people say Marrakesh is a great place for markets and supposed to be nice.
Bring back some food.
I know. Yeah. And I'm just the only thing you'll be concerned about is just the climate, the weather. Because I think we'll be able to do the dunes. We'll get by there. We'll get quite a few hours to. We've got a whole day to pass. So or 4 days to do the 32 kilometres. As long as we can get a good recovery time.
Let me ask you, you've won these honours during your playing career, and that feeling of being a winner, especially winner for Celtic, that must be, when you sit down after a match, you sit down that night, the feeling of achievement must be wonderful. After these kind of expeditions that you've been on, trekking across the Arctic, of course you're going to be now trekking across the Sahara. What is that feeling of accomplishment like at the end of doing something like that, knowing that you're doing it for such a good cause?
There's similarities. I know the pressure on winning a league championship here is far greater, But in terms of there's a team effort there, and there's similarities about. You try to help each other out, trying to give them support. What you would do as a captain, what you would do as a player here, and try to help your other teammates. So there's a lot of similarities to what we're trying to come together. There's, I think, about 15 or 16 is, so it's a good number, good squad number that you can work with. And so you'll get to know a lot of people, and we'll be friends for life. Having met the Arctic Challenge, I've done cycles with another Celtic group. So I love going along and doing these things. But there is that process of coming together, getting to know each other, seeing your strengths and weaknesses. As we've seen in the Arctic, there was other people that were stronger than others, and that's a normal process. It's the same on a football field. So we've all, the serious nature is that, going to the Arctic or even going to Sahara, you've got to be very, very careful. I think we're certainly under good tuition with the people who are taking these treks. So that's just something that you've got to be very careful with.
Yeah. But I suppose the reason that you're doing this, it's for the foundation.
Yeah.
It's for the amazing work that they do. The reason we're talking about this as well is 15, 16 people that are going to do it, but that's just not the only people that can get involved, because people can donate, people can get involved, and people can help the foundation, and you know more than most, Tom, just how important that is.
Listen, we do, and it's an absolute fantastic work that our foundation do for our behalf. As I mentioned, it's for us to get back to the core of where we first started, how our club was founded, was to help those in need in the East End of Glasgow. So we've expanded that, and we're just helping those that need our support. And it's unfortunately that we need to expand that to so many different things to try and help as many people as we can. So we need all the money we can get, and for the foundation to continue. Because as Celtic supporters, 99.9% Celtic supporters that will be donating monies towards these the foundation. So we thank them for that effort, and we hope that they continue to give us their fantastic support, and obviously hopefully if families get any little bit of spare cash about after Christmas and New Year, if they could make any donation as well.
We'll put a link then, won't we?
Absolutely.
In the bio for the podcast and YouTube, or wherever you listen to it, so you can click it.
It's these Celts in the Sahara.
So
that's where we're lined, and I
think
there's quite a few players doing it. Myself and Simon, with a couple of ex-players, but there's quite a few players doing it. Four are returning from the Arctic. So they're glutton for punishments, much like myself, I think, you know what I mean?
Fantastic.
So there's a lot of nice people. We've all been out, we had a couple of wee walks, just preparation to get to know each other. So I think we're going to have a good time.
Brilliant. Well, wish you all the
I wonder if we'll be able to
Celtic TV when you're over there, actually, to watch some of the games.
No, it's a very good question. You will need to give me some wee Wi-Fi or something. I don't think we'll get
got that next week. It'll be at home, I think.
It's Kilmarnock.
I
think the Kilmarnock game that we are missing. And I'll need to have a word with Tony and Jane and tell them that if there's any other challenges that they don't do it when there's a home game, or even there's a Celtic game on. There's a close season. There's a winter break there.
You'd better plan. Absolutely.
The planning is
you don't want to be doing that in the summer period, because going to the Sahara is bad enough, but then in June and July, maybe give that a miss.
That is a wee bit of advice that we got from one of the guys who was doing the Arctic thing, and there's everybody wants to get the worst conditions to say, or when I was doing the Arctic, I want it -40. But these things become life-threatening. And seriously, life-threatening. Certainly with the Arctic, with frostbite and stuff, we're a wee bit fortunate that way. And the same in the Arctic, the warmer it is, it's getting warmer, not to what it'd be in the middle of summer. I think getting up to about 27 degrees, which you've got to watch yourself. And those when you're out trekking for the length of time, rehydration is
no
vital.
Cover or anything like that,
so nothing, no cover.
That'd be so extreme.
Other than me looking like a wee Arab with the hats on and the scarves and everything. And
you'll be going for the Stone Roses look with the bucket hat and so on.
I'll need to ask wee Simon. He knows if there's any kind of ask Simon of Stone Roses. I don't know any of their songs. Is that me getting old or something?
Simon Doyle is 100% going to be wearing a bucket hat in the Sahara.
I've got to, but
if he doesn't, I'm going to be so disappointed. But listen, Tom, I can't wait to hear the updates
Yes.
and see how you get on. I'm sure, as always, you'll succeed.
Yeah.
And we wish you all the very best. It's
Well, that's
wonderful
what
work
we
that you're
strive for, but the succeeding is what the foundation do for us,
Yeah,
and the
certainly.
work that they do for us. And we're just a little bit going along. We hopefully have a good time, but the serious stuff is to help the foundation. So what we do and the people that need our help is far greater. So we just can do a wee hill, we can go out to the wee Arctic or whatever, just to try and help that process along.
Absolutely. Good words, and it'll be very interesting to see how you get on over there. We're going to move on now and chat a little bit about the football. So, of course, we'll start with the weekend's match, which has just passed, the weekend's game against Aberdeen.
You know, brought me in a moment with a victory, a 6-0 victory or something like, you know.
Well,
Well,
there's
Jonah, Tom.
I know.
We're not getting away from it, of course. It was drop points and of course it finished 1 each at Pittodrie. There's no getting away from the fact it was a disappointing result and a disappointing afternoon for the team. Ryan, I think looking back towards the game at the weekend there, we did create chances, and I suppose if you're looking at it, well, of course, we'll always try and find the positives. So there's no getting, we're not getting away from the fact it was a disappointing result. But the positives, when you're looking at it, Adam Ida comes on the park and assists Nicholas Kuhn, who gets equaliser for Celtic. We did create chances, but how did you reflect on the game from the weekend?
It's just two different 45 minutes, really. When you look at it, I was up there at Pittodrie at the game. In first half, we had so many clear-cut opportunities. Palma hit the bar, didn't he? Made the keeper save. He obviously scored, which was offside. And I think really, if we'd scored early on, if Abada had put it in and not hit it at Roos, then I feel like personally it's a different game. Aberdeen's second half then come out. They get a little bit of belief behind them, and it's a great goal from the off-skate in terms of a bit of individual brilliance. And then from there on, the home crowd are up. They've obviously got a little bit of a bounce of the fact that Barry, unfortunately, a former Celtic player, had lost his job, but I think that kind of played into the atmosphere a little bit. That, as you said, positives are Kuhn and Adam Ida coming on and impressing as well, but I think you've only got to look at the manager's comments after the game to have a real reflection on that 90 minutes, and he did say it's 2 points dropped and not a point gained. So I think hopefully though at the end of the season that's where it's going to really, you're going to understand if it is 2 points dropped or a point gained, because you can go to Pittodrie, Tom, you've done it tons of times, it can be a hard place to go. So we're going to have to wait and see the end of the season, but clearly it's a disappointment.
Yeah, Tom, you've through your career with Celtic, through your playing career as a whole, I guess, you'll have played in games where you're playing for the team that creates the most chances and looks like the most in control of the match, but don't get the victory. How frustrating is that as a player?
It's very frustrating, because obviously the looking to what wins you games is goals, and we've had opportunities. It's not as if we're not creating opportunities. We've certainly had opportunities, and there were similarities in this game to the Kilmarnock game, where you're not going to dominate a game for 90 minutes. The way we did in that first half was immense in terms of how we controlled the game. But the second half, when the home team came out and had a goal, Kilmarnock did it as well, we were found wanting at times in terms of whether that's defensively. But to score goal, I don't know, it's the hardest thing in the world to do. I didn't get too many myself, right enough, but to score the goals would relieve some of the pressure on you, and especially the way it seems to be going at this moment in time. So taking your chances, putting the ball in the back of the net, we've created quite a few, but just a wee concern about how we have let and conceded opportunities to opposition in the second halves again, especially obviously the Kilmarnock game, and we lost that one, and this Aberdeen game. So how do you fix it? It's the difficulty that the manager's got to do with the players that he's got available. We're nursing a few injuries as well to key players, and obviously a couple being away at the Asian Cups, and well, hopefully that's a point gained in pursuit for retaining the title. But as Ryan says, it's time will tell that. The disappointing thing is how many points were dropped, and it's recently. It seems to be recently, and I think that's something that we've got to address.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, we're talking honestly and talking about how it was disappointing, and in the games this season we've dropped points have been disappointing, but not just as supporters. It'll be disappointing for Brendan and the team as well. But talking with that sort of honesty, I think everybody would accept now that going up to Easter Road midweek to play against Hibs, it becomes a pretty massive match. It's obviously going to be difficult. It's a place, one of these little anomalies where it's a place that Brendan Rodgers has never experienced a victory. How are you feeling going into that game on Wednesday night?
Well, I mean, again, can revert back to you, Tom, having played and knowing what this experience is like, but anytime you drop points as a Celtic player, as a Celtic fan, when you're just involved in this club, dropping points is not expected. No. It's not what the fans expect at all. It's not what the club expect. So even when it is a kind of tough place like Pittodrie, so all that does is just slightly add a little bit more pressure into the next game, which again, as you mentioned, is a tough match on paper of going to Easter Road. I think what we have to do is, of course, go out and win that match. I mean, Hibs had a pretty poor result on Saturday. Yeah. They got defeated 3-0 at home to St Mirren. But the thing is, while there is the disappointment of the result, as we were mentioning, we have been creating chances, and it's just about, hopefully on Wednesday night, it's one of those games where we create those chances early on, we take them, we alleviate that little bit of pressure from ourselves, and we can go and enjoy our game. And I think hopefully once we get a result like that, we can kick on from there. But yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's one of those games that you're never really kind of looking forward to. Any Easter Roads going away from home, and off the back of drop points probably adds a little bit to that as well.
Tom, you've obviously played in some fairly pressurised moments and pressurised seasons. I think again it would be pretty obvious to anyone looking on that there's a lot of pressure going into this game now, and going into the rest of the season. In your experience though, how can that pressure galvanise a team, and can it make the difference? Can it push them on?
Yes, it can. That's what the best players thrive on. Situations like that, and tight moments, and games. The moment seem to be going against us, so you need to get out of that very, very quickly, or else we could see that just crumbling away, our challenge crumbling away. So we need to get and address why we drop the points. It's weird in terms of how I think we've got an absolutely fantastic record at Pittodrie in terms of some of the victories we've had. Going to Easter Road, and you would think it'd be the other way. Aberdeen usually have been the closest challengers. Hibs not really, and yet we've always had a harder game. You know, the record we've got there recently hasn't been that great. In terms of this game, it'd be interesting to see how their manager approaches it. We hear that St Mirren obviously won 3-0 at the weekend, but Nick Montgomery, I think, just wants to go out and play football at all costs. That's slightly different to what other teams do against us. They usually just sit in and concede territory and usually loads of chances, opportunities. But I think Hibs are slightly different than that in terms of they want to come out and play. Whether their players are good enough, I've seen some of their games. I watched them against Hearts. They came out flying at the start, the same against Rangers, flying at the start, and then they just faded away. Whether they'll do that against us, I don't know. But interesting to see. But we'll wait and see. Again, we need to get back in the rails. We need to start getting victories. Victories change everybody's philosophy. If it's a good victory, in the performance, you get a good performance and a good victory at a place that invariably have struggled in the past, then that could give everybody a huge lift and relieve a little bit of the pressure that seems to be on us just now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. But of course, we've got to keep the optimism as much as
Yeah,
possible,
definitely.
and keep the faith here. Hopefully, we go up there.
Oh,
on
well,
Wednesday,
yeah, well, listen,
get the
every
result.
time before the game, as you do, and we'll talk about it, we've certainly got a team that's good enough to go there.
Absolutely.
We're not sitting at the bottom of the league or whatever,
Yeah,
you know, that we're sitting at the top of the league at the moment. Hopefully that will continue after that game with a convincing victory.
But of course, Tom, you know, we're talking, very privileged position here to be talking to Tom about going into pressurised matches and what it takes to win.
He knows what it's all about.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to that now and chat a little bit about your career with Celtic. And
Just on that, you're talking about going into press. It's nice when you have somebody like Henrik Larsson
Yeah.
to bail you out quite a few
Yeah.
times, and Alan Thompson and guys like big game players.
Well, I've got the Henrik
And that's
Larsson
what you need.
podcast world right here.
Yes. Oh, well, there we go. I salute you, sir.
that is what I'm going to clip that up, and I might have that as my ringtone or something like that. Henrik, yeah, absolute legend. We're
Yeah.
going to chat about Henrik
But yeah,
a bit
yeah.
as well. But I mean, you know, one exciting time for yourself in terms of when you were involved in the club, because you joined Celtic in 1992. Of course, what I always look back in that sort of time period as we're just on the cusp of Celtic coming into the sort of, I guess, the modern Celtic that we know, and has been so successful over the last 20 plus years. But of course, you come in 1992 as part of a swap deal.
Yeah.
You were playing at Chelsea, playing your trade at Chelsea at the time. Chelsea get Tony Cascarino and Celtic get Tom Boyd.
Yeah, I was delighted.
Yeah, talk us through that
Have you bought him a
moment.
pint since?
I haven't seen him. No, I don't think I've ever been in his company. Obviously, passing.
Yeah.
Sorry, apologies. Passing in planes.
Yeah,
and over
And did you
the
wave to him as
border.
the plane was
Yeah, I thanked him for being rotten, because that would not have happened.
Yeah.
Had Tony done well here, there's no way that Celtic would have wanted to get rid of him, but just because for whatever reason it didn't work out here, and so I thank him for. It's the only time you thank somebody for being rotten in it, you know. So it was great. Obviously, it got me realising my dreams of wanting to play here. Thought that opportunity had gone when my transfer down to England to Chelsea. So I thought that opportunity, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have been as quick as I thought it would be, just 6 months later.
Yeah.
It was very strange, but absolutely delighted that it did happen for me. And as you say, running out here in my first game against Airdrie, and the hairs in the back of the neck, it just still do walking through that tunnel at Celtic Park. It's brilliant, absolutely fantastic feeling, and just delighted I made my debut here in
What could
'92.
have been? It's so
Yeah.
funny how these things happen. Like football, we all know.
Listen, it's strange how thing what you're saying, Rainer, is some people think that was pre-planned. That the stage of me going down to go to Celtic was planned in some way. But when you think about it and analyse it, I believe at the time that Tony Cascarino was our highest ever transfer fee of 1.2 million. Now, 6 months later, he's had to have an absolutely horrendous time and to go down and to put himself on the transfer mode of the club trying to get rid of him. It wouldn't happen. You wouldn't think it, you know. So it was just a series of events that worked for me. And even for myself, leaving Chelsea, I was doing okay. I was in the team. My last victory was a victory at Anfield. We won 2-1 against Liverpool. And the manager called me in to say, just completely at the blue, didn't know what was happening, that there was an opportunity for me to go to Celtic Park.
You were right up in the nose.
And before he even finished the sentence, I was on the plane to Heathrow.
Unbelievable. Of course, you boyhood Celtic supporter as well. What was it like for the family as well, that you were coming to Celtic to play?
Oh, great. Well, listen, you can look back in the family. My dad was actually, there was 3 years at the press conference. Liam Brady, myself and my dad.
Brilliant.
I was at the top table. So I don't think you asked too many questions, to be fair. But the pride that he's shown that day, and I don't think that ever left him. You know, obviously his son playing for the club and then to continue to become the club captain. You know, he was well chuffed with that.
It's a bit like us when we had our first day here, wasn't it? Our
No,
dad came along.
Yeah.
Have you been promoted to captain yet, Ryan?
I've been demoted. That's it. Now I'm here.
When Ryan gets back on this seat, his dad's going to come in and sit at the side in the podcast. I know there's so much we can talk about, of course, with your time at Celtic,
tons.
but we're going to kind of pick points, I guess, along the way, just to kind of punctuate it a little bit. Because you come into Celtic in 1992, I want to fast forward a couple of years, if that's all right with yourself.
Yeah, nothing much happened the first couple of years. In fact, nothing happened.
You think about it, like, looking back on it, we obviously just know Celtic as success.
Yeah.
It was success before, but that period, I think when you came in, it was like 2 third place finishes, 2 fourth place finishes in the first 4 seasons. Like, I think we probably don't appreciate that as much now, being the more kind of modern day Celtic supporter.
Yeah.
We're, you know, obviously disappointed that we got a draw at Pittodrie, whereas for a period of time in the 90s it was...
Tom comes in 1982, but at that point, you know, we've won the Scottish Cup in 1989. You know, Joe Miller scoring the goal. A couple of years has passed, we've not won anything, but as that continues to then creep on, of course, what the point I was going to cut to was the Scottish Cup in 1995 under Tommy. You're talking 6 years. Every year that passed without a bit of silverware, Tom, did you feel that pressure rising?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I thought I was coming up to Celtic next. We may have not won the league that season that we were coming in, but I thought we would be competing and up there. But obviously that was at the height of our problems financially, and the club was heading down a slippery slope. So thankfully Fergus came in when he did with the rest of the team that were in the takeover. So but I thought as a player, I'm a Celtic supporter, I've had that, you know, it was on and off every so often, but never that length of time in my time. There's older guys that will tell you way back in the 50s it was worse, but in my time, never known the like of it. So you're talking about that, and that season that we won the Scottish Cup at the end of the Hampden season. I think when we talk about how successful we have been and we're disappointed about a draw, I tell everyone this, there was a period of 17 games, I think, where we only won 2 of them. You know, you think of that as a Celtic history, you know, we're raging if we lost 2 games a season, you know, in terms of some of the season we've had, the invincible season under Brendan, and now look, you know, that's where we were at that time. But that was the start of the transition. Tommy was coming in, and eventually we won the Scottish Cup against the Aberdeen. It was not the best game. There was huge amounts of pressure on us, having lost as well earlier in the League Cup final to Wraith Rovers, a championship team as well at the time, as well as Aberdeen. So there was immense pressure, and thankfully Big Pierre, Tosh McKinley got across the ball with his usual panache and accuracy to Big Pierre's head. It was a good target right enough, Big Pierre, you know what I mean, 7'5" or so. So that took a lot of pressure, and I think you've seen that the picture that reminiscing was obviously I think, was it Paul jumping top of either Tommy or Peter Grant or something. That was a very emotional moment. So that was huge for us. It gave us a little bit of belief that we could, you know, get a little bit. It gave us a bit of pride back in winning something for the first time in 6 years, I think it was. So that gave us a little bit of pride back, and we started then to compete. Tommy started to bring in better players, as all managers are judged on the players that they bring in, and we got Andy Tom and Big Pierre. Big Pierre was the first one of them. So we started to compete in that season. Unfortunately, never. When we came back here to Celtic Park, that was a huge lift for us coming back here. No matter, even though it was just at the time only a couple of stands, but it was massive to come back to our own ground and get playing here. So it was. Listen, there's tons of things we can talk about, and talk about that season. We can talk about the following season. The huge disappointment of that was, yes, we won a cup under Tommy Burns, but I think we should have won a league for him in terms of what he gave, you know, to our football club, everything, his whole heart and soul. Whether it be a supporter, whether it be a player, whether it be a manager, a scout, whatever he did, Tommy did it with his whole heart, and sadly we couldn't. We were playing against a decent Rangers team as well, though, at that time, with some of the players that they had.
Well, I feel like, Ryan, there's a few names that quite often come up on the podcast, and it's just because of, you know, who they are, their status within the story of the club. One man's name who comes up quite often, certainly with ex-players of that era, is Tommy Burns. you've spoken a little bit about, Tommy, that, you know, and you're talking earlier about the foundation, how it represents the soul of what the club is and who we are. Tommy Burns, you know, it's not a stretch to say Tommy Burns epitomises who this club is and what the club stands for. You've obviously got fond memories of the man. Do you mind sharing just a couple of memories?
I remember
of Tommy
him
Burns?
shouting at me at Hampden. It wasn't going too well at times, you know what I mean? But yeah, listen, he's somebody that you cannot dislike. You got everybody going so well at that moment, and I used to hear him having. I think him and Granty would fight like cat and dog in a football field, but just showing you the kind of motivation he had for this football club. He wanted to be successful, you know, as he was as a player, he was as a manager, and he probably epitomises what a Celtic supporter should be. And you know, his faith is was outstanding as well. He loved his family and obviously loved our club. Equally, I think, amongst the three of those things. So a fantastic example for every Celtic supporter to be. Show passion, but he also gave respect to everybody that he met, and I think that's what the enduring memory of Tommy down the years. And he had a wee masterstroke in terms of positional change where he put me back into. I preferred to play sweeper. I know I was a full-back for it, but I was a sweeper. It was all through my school career and my Motherwell days, and eventually at my Motherwell I had to become a full-back, and adjusted. And Tommy, the season we only lost the one league game, he put us back into sweeper. I was alongside Big John Hughes at the time.
Yeah, John on.
So that was in his wisdom, and I think that allowed for us to bring in Tosh. Obviously Tosh's ability with the ball, the crossing ability is I think second to none that I've seen. So it changed in that kind of way. So yeah, a man of huge integrity, Tommy, great honesty, and somebody who very much is sadly missed.
Yeah, I think, see, just on Tommy, I know, so we mentioned him a lot in the podcast. We have people on. We had John Hughes on a couple of weeks ago, which was a great laugh. Brilliant. Who was just again so emotional about speaking about Tommy. Yeah, but I think it's something that it's important that we always talk about him, because even I can remember when I was younger and I'm getting into Celtic now, I didn't get to see Tommy play, I didn't get to see Tommy manage, but those stories were passed on, and it was passed on from my dad and from other people about, you know, this is what it is to like be a Celtic supporter and to represent. And I remember I used to always go, I'm from Bearsden, and at the science parks, the under 17s, 18s, whatever it would have been, would play at the science parks. So we'd always go and walk the dog down there on Saturday mornings and things, Sunday mornings, and the Celtic team were playing, we'd stand and watch it, and Tommy Burns was always there, and he used to stand like at the top of this hill at a tree with like his hood up, almost like trying to be in disguise, but everybody knew that he was there. And just from that, it would strike to you that that's somebody that is just so ingrained in the club and would do anything for it. And I think that's something that then passes on to you as a fan about what it means. It's not just about turning up on a Saturday, it's so much more than that. I've been a Celtic fan, and I just thought it'd be important to say, you know, it's always important just to keep talking about Tommy and his memory and other people like him. Yeah,
it's an influence, as you said there rightly, not just as me when I was under him as a player, but more to do with what his influence is and could affect young kids. But it's amazing though how much time that he gave to. He gave 100% in everything he done, whether it was where he was watching, what he was doing. And it's a wonder he had any time for family or anybody else in terms of what he had to do, but he really did, and gave everything to the best of his ability.
It's a measure of the man, that the legacy, the impact that he had on the club is such that supporters maybe like ourselves who didn't grow up watching Tommy playing and didn't have a lot of time watching Tommy's Celtic team when he was a manager, even supporters who'll be younger than us as well, will still talk with such affection about the man. I guess that's the measure of the qualities of the man and the impact that he had in the club. But you're talking about John Hughes there, like you say, we had a good chat with John as well. But one of the things that John said, and I found it really interesting, was that what struck him when he came to Celtic was the standard at training was so high. what was your experience of that? You know, when you were training at Barrowfield, what was it like day to day working with Tommy and working with these teams?
Well, we see now, and it's a wee bugbear of mine sometimes when you see passes and pass appreciation to your teammate, and that's what Tommy was renowned for. He went over to Holland to watch, I think it was Ajax, whoever it was over there, and came back, and we always done this Dutch square, which was a thing, and it's about passing it just with your right, but we reverse it, pass it with left. But everything had got to be played in the right manner, ahead of people, never behind, because moments could be lost, chances could be lost if it's behind you. So we've done that religiously right through just about every training session. But it showed, and certainly for players like us, we certainly appreciate of, you know, as they keep saying, pass the ball as you would like to receive it, and so you put it in a little bit firmly. Good players can be able to handle that. Whether it's at speed, they generally prefer that, so it gives them a little bit more time to get things under control. So, but that was key to Tommy in terms of the intensity and how much he would work in the training ground with everybody. And so, yeah, as you rightly say, just gave his heart and soul into our football club.
To sort of fast forward then a couple of years, so we won the Scottish Cup in 1995. We then don't win anything for the next two seasons, 95, 96, 96, 97. There's no silverware. Then comes 97, 98, which is a huge season, because of course we haven't won a league title since the centenary season. So it's of course a decade since we've lifted the league title. Fim Jansen's in charge of the club at that point in time. There's a certain Mr. Henrik Larsson also on the books. I think he went on to do okay for Celtic. Just the 242 goals, I think it was.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Never let him forget his first pass though.
Yeah.
Talking about pass appreciation, I think he must have done somebody check.
Well, it's funny because when John Hughes was on,
lovely boat, man.
when John Hughes was on a couple of weeks ago, and we spoke about that game because John was playing for Hibs.
Yes.
And I think he said the same as well. It's like, who's Celtic signed here now?
Who's this Swedish guy we've got here?
Anyway,
but obviously, you know, Ryan, the pressure going into that season, we know what it was all about. We know the expectation of the support. Of course, Tom, you are given the honour of being Celtic captain.
You say it's an honour, you talk about pressure.
I know. So talk to us, what was it like then, that pressure and knowing what that season was going to be?
Yeah, the pressure's on. As you talk about, pressure's on for every game, but as you say, as a captain, you want to be lifting trophies, you want to be being a captain, you're walking up there first and picking that up. That's what you're judged on in terms of your time, your career, what you did as a player, and what you've done as you get the honour of becoming a captain, what you've done as a captain. And so there's huge, immense pressure because of what's went before and all the outstanding players that have captained our football club. And there's not as many as which played our football club. So in terms of captains down the years, it's an absolute magnificent honour, and something that puts a little bit of added pressure on you to be successful within it, and at a time where we had been struggling, obviously, to perform, and so thankfully that I think the recruitment for what we had, the players that came in were outstanding, and their contributions to help us, as well as the ones that were there, you know, because as you say, it was a full squad thing. But the guys that came in performed tremendously for us.
Can I ask, so in that summer of 97, when Vim comes in, as you're mentioning, like we all know the pressure about that season, and you're given the armband, what's discussed in the changing room in that summer going into the season, and what do you have to do differently as a captain?
Learn a role to how to control everybody. You know, as an individual, you can look after yourself. You can be a wee bit selfish in looking after yourself. As a captain, you've got to try and help and get everybody on. I know that's a manager's job, but as a captain there, you as well, you can do things and talk to a player that the manager can't do, and so you could liaise between the two, or you could just help players along. So yeah, there was pressure on, and I remember losing our first two league games, which was not the ideal start in the season that you've got to try and stop. Hibs and Dunfermline, yes. I remember playing it here, thinking, we'll get back in the rails with Dunfermline at home, but it didn't work out that way. But then after the influence of the players coming in and the signings that we started to make, the contribution was fantastic, and helped raise the squad level. Obviously Hennick coming in, made Craig Burley, Big Mark People was outstanding, and then we got a guy who had just won the European Cup the year before, for £4 million. Don't think we'll be able to do that nowadays, could we?
To talk about the captaincy, Tom, like, it's something that I've heard a few times, so I'm going to ask about it. How important was this might sound, I don't know, a little bit daft here, but how important was the social aspect of that group? Because I know that you like to be day out,
and that wasn't just myself, let me say, and a few of the boys did. I think they try and include, we were bringing in a lot of foreigners, which wasn't usually like us. So we started to bring in those kind of players. So you're just trying to bring them in together, trying to get them out, get them away from either hotels or their rooms, and maybe not have family over there. So you're trying to give them a reason for being there, and trying to feel a part of the team, rather than just you go and play your game, you go back to your room and stuff. So we'd either try to go, not everybody likes some of these things, but we'd try to go golfing, which is quite a few of it popular. Go-karting we've done. Amongst other things, there was paintballing as well. So we had some dangerous things that you wouldn't be allowed to do nowadays. I don't know about
risk-taking.
Player insurance at the time, you know. I didn't even look.
Larson out for season with paintball injury.
Listen, and it did get nasty from time to time, you know. But it was a good laugh as well, that, you know, just players no adhering to rules, you know. So it was just some of these things that you got to do, and it just to serve the function of trying to get everybody together. You could have a few drinks if you wanted. Sometimes players opened up with that one and become a wee bit more friendly with us. So that was key to helping us create a good team spirit. So it did go on for a few, and we certainly had a few good occasions, and some enjoyed them more than most. I shall remain nameless.
Are there like defining moments in that season? So the first two games we lost, I can imagine that's one. But then are there other points, probably some of the derby games, where you're going, right, we can do this now?
The biggest one was the derby and the New Year's Day game.
Paul scored.
We didn't realise at the time, but once we look back and you see that we hadn't won the derby in the 10 years previously, or 9 years previously. So this was the 10th year, and significantly the team that had not lost or something, I think had won that one, but not to win the league. Yeah. So we knew that was vitally important, and we were just again, I think, just a little bit behind. I think 4 points as well. We lost that 7 points at that time. I think might have been a wee bridge too far. So we had to try and get a victory in that game, and we played ever so well. Because again, talking about taking our chances, we never took our chances. We had a good goalkeeper in there, that enough, you know. So, but we certainly missed a few chances.
Celtic was electric that night.
It was great. Loved it, absolutely brilliant, fantastic game, and obviously really jumped at the end of it. So that was hugely significant, and there was a few others along the way. Listen, that was one you can pinpoint with the pressure and being behind and stuff like that. They all count.
Yeah,
of course, yeah.
That Aberdeen draw, that might be the one that gets us. It could be that close at the end of the season. That might be one to getting it. And we talk about performances. I think, was it that season that we went up to Pittodrie, and it was a rotten game, end of the season, rotten game. I think we won 1-0. But it goes towards, you know, terrible game. I think we only had one shot at goal or something. So terrible game. So you don't play well every single game of the season. But as long as you do get the victories and try and get a point at least to take you some way towards it. So thousands of talking points about the seasons and the impact of players and the impact of decisions, then all culminating together to come to the St Johnstone game here. But there was an important game the week before.
Well, you've set us up nicely for it, because of course the well, we speak about this. We've spoken to Simon about it before as well, that game against Hibernian.
He'll have a different opinion from
of course, because he could have been the man, of course, that seals the deal for Celtic. It doesn't quite happen that week at East End Park, because the Hibernian got late goal.
Yeah, but
what was it feeling like?
That was part of the plan.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Bring it back to Celtic
honestly,
Park.
Perfectly choreographed.
We're at East End Park. There's 15,000 Celts supporters there, if not more. Out here, we're building a stadium that's going to hold 60. I think it was only about 45, 50 at that time. We wanted to win it. Hadn't won the championship for 10 years. So we had to win it in front of... What a better place to win it than at Paradise. So we had a wee arrangement, am I allowed to say that? With Craig Falconbridge, and we asked Gildy not to come out for a cross for a change. So, the only one that disagreed with that was Simon. Simon would have been the guy that scored the goal.
See, I always thought I was still do a bit of work with the tours department here and there. So whenever I'm doing tours and talking in the boardroom, the thing that always comes up is the thread of drama and excitement that runs through this football club. If there is a way to make something dramatic, Celtic will find a way to do it. Of course, the best example is obviously European Cup. Won the European Cup in 1967. We battered into Milan. It's well accepted and it's well documented. We gave them a roasting that day. But we wait till 5 minutes to go till we get the winner. We this bit of drama. Yeah. This league title, obviously, being as massive as it was, it goes right down to the final day. Another example of that drama. You're the captain.
Yeah.
What is it like in that dressing room pre-match, knowing?
Well, not so much pre-match, the whole week, and the build-up to the game. Trying to keep players as you would as a normal build-up. It's not. We know it's not. The players will know it's not. Everybody will tell you it's not. The significance of it, you better not lose this. You know what I mean? The pressure that's on you. So we would try to do our normal build up with going out for a wee game at golf, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what it was. Probably golf, and then a wee night out. And I think the Tuesday we did day off on the Wednesday. So try to keep everything the same, keep everybody involved, and obviously turn up on the Saturday and hope that what you've done, what you've prepared, how the manager's prepared you in the training games. There's not a lot done to end the season stuff, and there's no real fitness that you need. So it's just trying to keep you ticking over and working on your manoeuvres of or tactics or whatever it is that he wants to work on. So yeah, in the last few moments, just trying to say a few words of encouragement to him in the huddle. But
what did you say?
Sorry, this camera's on live. I cannot repeat.
What happens in other stages?
Well, it's amazing how that's changed in terms of became the captain that started doing. I think because we were getting a lot of players in, foreign players. Maybe English was not their first language. It used to be anyone could say anything in the huddle if somebody was feeling confident at the time. That's what the initial thought was. But I think as it developed, it then became the captain.
So at that point, was it the captain?
It was, the captain. By that time. I don't know if Harold would. Harold's great English speaker or stuff, you know. Yeah. But it just became the captain. I don't know exactly the timing of it. Whether it was Paul, whether it was when I took over, but certainly it became just the captain, and I think it's subsequently been that. So yeah, it was a very nervy time for everybody. I think at that space. Other than the players, you're nervous before. Don't be wrong here. You're nervous, but see on the field of play, once the game starts, the whistle goes, there's so many things you're concentrating on that you don't need to be nervous unless you're playing along somebody who's rotten. That could be a few things. So, and we get the perfect start with Henry scoring a goal, and so much so that I didn't go to join in the celebrations over there. I was just trying to keep everybody low key, and I think I was trying to hold back a wee tear as well, knowing that this could be the moment, you know. Henrik's gave us a perfect start, and like a lot of things, we had chances, we had opportunities to seal it early on in the first half, and we didn't. And then I think everybody was having kittens just at that wee moment before half time with Georgia Boyle, who missed an absolute sitter. So I think you could sense, we knew we had to get another goal because the fans' reaction, we knew it wasn't going well for us, the situation that Rangers must have been winning at Tannadice, so we had to get another goal, and up stepped the captain to play it down to wee Jackie to play it into.
What a pass, by the way!
Honestly,
has there been a pass played?
It was a worldie. I don't know much height I had on it enough, you know, but I was waiting a wee Jackie getting better. It was Alan Preston and I know the boy was at Sekerlioglu was coming and closing me down, and the fans could see this, and it was, as he was getting closer, like, pass it, and words to that effect. I've no repeat the words to that effect. But then the way I pass, we talk about pass appreciation, the way I pass for Jackie's ball,
it's fantastic.
Was outstanding.
It's on a plate.
On a plate. And I know Harold's missed a couple on a plate before, but he put that one away, thankfully, which was outstanding. And then that was it. We knew we would never going to lose a couple of goals to St Johnstone at that time that was left. So it was party time.
Could you vividly just still picture all that moment? Because I think every Celtic fan that was at the ground can vividly picture the moment where you get the ball and you play it into Jackie, but only you have the memory and the image of playing that pass and seeing it all develop.
Well, I remember who I took it off, the St Johnstone player. I took it off and running up the line. I remember everything and waiting in the moment. I think the fans probably could have seen Harold maybe running through the middle and expecting maybe that pass, but my focus, whether it was right or wrong, was on Jackie and thinking, hoping Jackie would get the better to get him down the line. So that was what my focus was on. Putting it into Harold, I didn't have a thought of that. Maybe I didn't have, maybe just a tunnel vision. I didn't have peripheral vision. I don't know. So from that point of view, then that was for right, wait, and it's just the timing of when Jackie was going to get the better of him, and I knew Jackie would have got the better of him in terms of his pace. So then just to lift it over the top. So yeah, I can remember everything.
Amazing.
And then just stop at that moment and just about cheering and stuff. Like
it's an iconic image. With
Kevin Clancy, just blow the whistle now. It was 12 minutes. I can't mind what it was to go, but just blow the whistle now because we weren't going to get beat.
It was. It's always wonderful. I love looking back at the footage from that day as well, because obviously there's such an outpouring of. Listen, you could say an outpouring of joy. I think it's clear to see it was an outpouring of relief as well, mostly. But once the relief is kind of worn off and it's sinking in, we're the champions. Tom, you're absolutely loving it at full time. I think you were cutting about with the jester's hat on and the pitch and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
You took the mic at one point as well, didn't you? Started singing.
I don't. Yeah, it's okay. I hope there's no any videos of that going on.
If I can find that,
let's just see. If I was on, what is one of these game shows about singing contest?
The
Voice. I'd be it. Honestly, I'd be it. Singing wasn't my best. Thank God I was better at other things. So yeah, I was, and I'll blame that Tony Hamilton for that. I've still worked with him as well, but you see the foundation.
Did he pass the mic to you?
He was in there. He was the compere in the middle of the pitch at that time.
We've won the league again. Fly the Flag potentially might have been the song of choice.
No, it was Stand Up for the Chat.
Stand Up for the Chat.
But it was Stand Up for the Chat. Right, so gladly, I'm not as bad in the shower or so. I think I don't know singing. But
there's enough space in the Sahara that you can sing and nobody will hear you. So you've got away with it, you can practice.
Aye. As long as they put some as long as they put earmuffs in the 16, and we'll do the huddle and we'll stand up for the champions. It
must have been what a party it must have been that night, and just
but then it get curtailed a little bit the following day when we knew
with the news.
You knew the news, and we were over in Portugal for the game for George Cadet, and so we knew then. So our thing was curtailed a little bit. Celebrations.
For our listeners, it's the news, of course, that Vim is
was leaving.
We're going to be leaving as manager. Must have came like a bit out of the blue, a bit of a hammer blow.
Listen, you knew there was issues with them as players that talking to him and stuff and the feelings. So he finally confirmed it. Then it wasn't really news to a lot of them. But it hit a lot hard in terms of obviously a manager coming in, myself as well, a manager coming in. That's just won the first championship for 10 years at our football club, and having to leave or left at the end. It was a surreal moment, and was a wee damper for us when we heard that news.
There was, of course, more excitement on the horizon. We're going to sort of finish up talking about sort of towards the end of your career at Celtic, but of course you end your career at Celtic during a really exciting time with just one of the all-time Celtic managers, really, and Martin O'Neill. Talk to us about what Martin's arrival was like for the club and his achievements.
A guy again at the time who'd lost our way just for a couple of years. Rangers had brought in some outstanding players, and so Martin had to try and match that with the players. There was a few players that were there. Well, I think it was at the time of Marky Viduka who left. that season. At the end of the season, I think Martin said that he did try to keep him, but I think we won out of that in terms of the guy that began, Chris Sutton, in terms of a player. So yeah, he came in, totally changed the ethos of the club by adding, again, like under Vim, adding quality players to the situation, and certainly none better than Sutton. Goes for Haring, and we could through Lenny and all that. We could go through the whole list of the players that come in, and players coming in and making an impact. But yeah, it was a fantastic time, and a year that I had a testimonial that we went and won a treble. I was a lucky boy for some times, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
First time as captain in the year in '97, and we won the league as well. So '97-'98 season. So yeah, I've been very lucky to be here at this football club and play under some exceptional managers, and I think certainly Martin, for his success, was outstanding.
I mean, obviously wonderful players there, great manager, winning the treble. We mentioned the guy earlier on. We're going to have to ask about him. Henke, what was, because you played Martin's era is obviously that's peak Henrik for me.
Yes. I think
so. What was he like?
I think the influence of Chris Sutton coming in, I think, took so much pressure off of Henrik, and I think he was, as you say, just at his peak. I think that was when he was at his peak at that time, an outstanding player. Everybody's seen what he could contribute towards the football team, and not just the sense of a goal scorer, which was outstanding, but as a team player. We see the way the team, the high press and all that, and he could do all that kind of thing. He was a fit boy. The leap that he had, the spring that he had,
incredible header of a football, wasn't it, Henrik? Just
I would say one of the best headers of the ball I've seen, and that's including all the big ugly centre backs I've played alongside. The timing of his jumps, I think that's key to some of the best people who talk about can header the ball. I think they jump early and they talk about hang time and all that. Henrik certainly had that. Outstanding player for us, and he could create as well. He wasn't a selfish player that I'll just want the glory, I'll take it off for myself. If somebody else was in a better position, he would pass it. And just so many assists as well. Just a complete all-round player for us. And so just glad that we had 7 years of him here at Celtic,
100%. And he talks about that himself when you think of the clubs he played for, including us, in Barcelona, Manchester United, and he says that the best strike partner ever had was Chris Sutton. So clearly that definitely worked.
Absolutely.
We got the fruits of it as well.
Yeah, I think that it was a perfect foil. Like Sutton was the guy that wasn't as good a goal scorer as Henrik, but he certainly added some outstanding goals for us. And I think it just clicked for the two of them. But I think Chris was somebody that I think you could, if you had a striker of him, I think you did it with Shearer as well. I think you get a striker, Chris can do a lot of the donkey work and the more physical work. But Henrik could handle himself. Yeah, we've seen that on so many occasions. He looked slight, but he wasn't. He was a strong boy, very strong boy.
That's what, Tom, you were saying a couple of answers ago about how sometimes you feel like you can be lucky you're here as captain for the 98 season and then for the treble. But I think what's not lucky is the fact that you come in at Celtic and you stay in the team for 10 years from 92 to 2002, and when you look back on your career, you mentioned earlier on as well, Celtic don't have a very long list of captains. You think Cal McGregor now, Scott Brown was captain for a long time. There's only a couple of people that have been a captain and lifted a league title. There's only a couple of people that have been club captain and a treble. Maybe only 3 or 4.
At the time when I did it was only 2. It was Big Billy was the only guy who had done that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know earlier we didn't have the League Cup. So I think was that in the 50s or something.
League Cup was first played for 46. So
46, right? Okay,
but you're right.
So before then, we may have had captains who have lifted it, but it wasn't available.
It wasn't the treble.
So some of the other. The Glasgow Cup at that time was a very strong competition.
What I'm trying to say really is that you look back on that, Tom, and you are a legend at this football club for what you've done and for what you've achieved, and I just wonder what it feels like. Do you think back to those moments in your legacy?
Listen, I appreciate it every time somebody we go and start talking about it, and I know how fortunate I was and to achieve those positions. I was somebody who was well respected by their peers, and I think that's certainly what got me the role as captain away back at the start. and so well liked by just about everybody. So I got on well with him. I tried to make them. There was some harder than others. There was some huffier than others. And the huffiest guy was Stephen Mahy. He was somebody. He could throw a wobbler. And trying to even appease him at times and help him bring him out it, but no, he wasn't having it. No, he was. In fact, I refused to come here a couple of nights or something.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, but he was a great player for us as well. Stephen Mahy as well. He was good. So yeah, I've just been, as I say, consider myself very fortunate that I've been to be part of the success of our football club, which I think ultimately what you're judged on, and so I'm absolutely delighted. They've been great just as a player, but obviously then to go and be as a captain, it certainly comes with its own pressures. But I'm glad I was up there to be counted, and thankfully I had a great time, a great feeling. Would have loved to have won more. I'd love to have been around at the time of Brunei when you're won a quadruple treble.
I think what you know what I mean? Was so significant in a way that.
But there was circumstances.
So unforgettable.
Yeah.
I think that's a good sort of point to, I guess, round up on there, because it's a wonderful reflection on a great career. And
hopefully now I'll get an honour with the foundation and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I'll get remembered, and I'll get that wee beach lilo in the Caribbean. Maybe
It's coming.
I'm sure you'll want to come along with that one.
I think we should do a sort of Caribbean podcast. I think it's only right that happens.
I think the foundation must do that.
I think we've got to take it home, so I can bring that if you bring the lilos.
We're sending us straight to the Celtic Foundation. Yes. We want a holiday with Tom Boyd. Tom, you've definitely sort of lifted us up after what was a fairly disappointing result at the weekend. Wonderful memories, and I think just sort of sitting listening to you, you certainly led by example in the park, and even now off the park, still very much a Celtic captain, and the work that you're doing with the foundation is exceptional. So wish you all the very best with the
thank you very much.
Sahara Trek. So Ryan, nice chat there with Tom.
I enjoyed sitting in this seat as well.
Yeah, you enjoy it, yeah?
Yeah, it was fun. But
I wonder if I'll ever be invited back to be in the host seat again.
I know, we're going to have to decide. Well, actually, Tom, you can decide actually maybe who is the next person in the hosting seat out of the two of us. If you like Matt's performance,
ex-captain picks the captain.
Listen, I've had some pressured situations when I was captain here at Celtic, and I think I'm going to pull one here and just head leaving him.
Nice. He's got scalps from sitting on that fence there.
Yes, big time.
So Lizzie, thank you very much for joining us today for the official Celtic FC podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe on all the platforms. We'll be back later in the week as we build up to the weekend's Scottish Cup and reflect on Wednesday night's game against Hibernian. But all that remains to be said is thank you very much for listening and watching, and hail hail.